Hey guys, John here. It's VEDA Day 5. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing another documentary, and before I get into the question, I'll ask you guys the question, just kind of see what your responses are. Actually, I have a couple of questions. I ever since I've kind of gotten involved with kind of the critical thinking, non-theist or atheist type debate and kind of seeing that as a valuable way to kind of or worldview. And it's made me sympathetic for other groups that are persecuted because in the United States, open atheists, especially in certain communities, are probably the most despised, relatively large minority, even more so than Muslims, um, in terms of just people being openly hostile and critical. And you see this, a lot in the news and newspaper. Now, it's something that I don't personally have an issue with because I live in San Francisco. I have never felt any bigotry toward that. I mean, toward that type of thinking. It's something that I don't really talk about very much openly just because it doesn't really come up in day-to-day conversations. It's not something that I go out of my way to talk about. I mean, people know if they know me, but it's not something that it's really that important in terms of day-to-day relationships. But at the same time, I think that there are a lot of biases toward influencing, and so it makes me sympathetic toward other groups that receive probably it worse in some ways, even though it's maybe not as overt. And it leads me to kind of the idea of the women's movement and women's struggle in the United States and really around the world. But just the amount of problems that still are faced with women, the inequities, I think is genuinely real, even though it has obviously improved greatly over my lifetime in the last couple decades, especially. And I think that you're starting to see a backlash that they have. There has been so much progress that people don't want to talk about it or recognize it anymore. And same way with racism in the United States in terms of African Americans, obviously making progress, but not in terms of maintaining a certain type of equity. There's still a lot of racism in the United States, and in a way has been pushed underground because there's generally a stigma of being openly racist, but there's still a lot of racist things. You see it in the comments in YouTube, just as an example, just very overtly racist type views. Anyway, so the question is I'm going to ask people, or want to ask people, is are you feminist? And that's a yes or no answer, but then why or why not aren't you? And I think that people genuinely have a desire to answer this question. It invokes a lot of opinion, and a lot of people, I think, they treat it as a moral question, and that's a good thing when you're filming people in front of a camera, because when people are morally motivated to respond to something, it hits those buttons. It genuinely provokes a thoughtful answer. And so that's it. But also I want to ask more questions along those themes, and I'm not exactly sure what to ask or how to phrase it, because I definitely look for questions that are hard to just come up with a stereotypical response or kind of not cause people to really think or dig deep for a thoughtful answer. And so, if you have any of those ideas, if you want to answer the question, are you a feminist or not, go right ahead. And also, if you have any questions along those same lines that we think would make good questions for my documentary idea, post those as well. So, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.